programs that our transgender and non-binary community members can be involved in. Some of those to name, Grow to Succeed. Grow to Succeed is a program that focuses on the sobriety of transgender and non-binary folks. We often find within service provision, our clients and those that we serve are suffering from drug addiction. And unfortunately, in Pittsburgh, or the county, we don't have an inclusive place that is vetted for trans folks, non-binary folks, and or TLGBTQIA folks. So it's important that we create these spaces, for trans and non-binary people so that they can thrive. Marilyn Blackburn, she's our program lead for Grow to Succeed. She comes from experience of, addiction and brings that right into the organization and being able to connect with, others that are suffering from addiction. We have Brothers PGH, which is a program that focuses on our trans masculine community, building community around our trans masculine folks in Allegheny County and Pittsburgh, who often falls through the cracks of service provision, especially medical service provision, where we need to continue making or having multiple conversations on what it looks like for trans healthcare, what it looks like for transgender service provision, and different spaces that we would go to seek these type of different services. And trying to just being respectful of time, trying to get through these. We have a lot of things that we do. We also have our non-binary virtual space that we adopted during the pandemic, which allows non-binary community members in our county and city to come to create community. And it's important that we have, these voices that do represent these communities, voices that empower them to be leaders in the county and in Pittsburgh, because we have that foreign in between as far as transgender and non-binary leadership within, our county. And our newest initiative, which I've been working to, which I skipped over, where I come from, and how I started this work, but I'll end it with that. Last year, we had the great privilege to purchase a home. And with this home, we provide transitional housing for transgender and non-binary folks in Pittsburgh. It's not a shelter situation like we run into. I've just found in my experience in the shelter system, as well as understanding and talking to our young folks and folks that are experiencing the shelter system, it's just a toxic system all the way around for marginalized folks. It's not really capturing what marginalized folks really need to be able to thrive. And that's what I want you to walk away with today, the word thrive, making sure those that we are serving, we're putting them in positions to be able to thrive within community. And that's what we do at Project T. We're very hands-on with them, teaching them home habitation skills all the way down to cooking and cleaning, right? How not to burn the house down when you're cooking. And, just being safe doing that, because a lot of time, marginalized folks who are homeless or those that are pushed out of the home don't get to learn these things that we take for granted, like cooking, like cleaning, like not upsetting your landlord for not taking care of the property, where you're renting. So with Project T, we teach them all of these things and provide them with the tangible resources for them to thrive. On their way out of Project T, we want to encourage them to, they usually transition out into a rental. And we help them, with first month's or security deposit or what have you, just so they can sustain, because they're saving money while they're at Project T as well, because we don't charge them rent or utilities or anything. But we want to transition them into home owners. I think that's a good way of thinking when we're thinking about transitioning folks, out of homelessness. And if we can turn them into and provide not only the resources, but the training to become home owners in Allegheny County, in our city, this can start to demarginalize. And that's another word I want you to leave with today, is demarginalizing our community, because that is possible if we put in the effort do it. And demarginalizing our homeless community is definitely possible if we put in, the collective work to do it. That's where most of our work relates. We do a Pride event as well in Pittsburgh, um, as well as different transgender focused national uh, recognized events like Trans Day of Visibility and Trans Day of Remembrance, etc. And but what brought me to this work was a young person. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, in Allegheny County, and I had to endure being a homeless young person who just was not accepted by my family when I started my transition, and that forced me to the streets. Away from my family, and 15, 16 and onward, it was me, other trans folks. We lived on Liberty Avenue downtown back in the day. When I was younger, that's where we lived, on Liberty Avenue. Those that are from Pittsburgh, if you've ever ventured to downtown Pittsburgh on a Friday or Saturday night, you saw Black and brown trans women that were working on Liberty Avenue or convening in Liberty Avenue, and that's where we lived. A lot of us, because a lot of us suffered the same plight of being put out the home, because of the transphobia and discrimination from our family, who a lot of times, did not have the education that to support us being young trans folks. So that's where we wound up. I cohabitated at Point State Park. That's where I slept with a few other girls right on the steps in front of the river. And there were plenty of summers, plenty of winters where the service provision that we were experiencing at that time just wasn't enough. It wasn't allowing us to thrive within community and be everything that we could be. So I had an epiphany, right? And that epiphany included pulling myself together, my mental health, my sobriety, my sustainability, to be able to provide for our community, for our trans and non-binary community, because we were falling through the cracks as far as service provision, because people weren't used to serving us intentionally. We were just turning into tokens. We were turning into folks to be exploited. We were turning into folks to gain funding on. And this funding, again, wasn't providing us to thrive within community like we really needed to do. So with Sisters PGH, that's what we set our trans and non-binary folks up to do, is to thrive within the community as community members, because we are a part of it. We are in Allegheny County. We're in Pittsburgh. We live here. Our Black and brown trans and non-binary folks, of course, are more affected by what's going on around us, and we definitely have to make sure that we are, especially as Pride Month, that we're centering and listening and uplifting trans folks beyond Pride Month. So that's my moment. I'm certainly open to any questions or comments. Laura or Nicole, if you have anything.
Thank you so much for sharing. Does anyone have any questions? You can either type them in the chat or just unmute and ask any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Thank you so much for letting us know your story and the origins of Sisters PGH. I'm from Department of Human Services, and I didn't know much of what you just said, so thank you for that. I'm wondering, since in this past year with COVID, everything has been a challenge, right? And so many people right now are asking about engagement. What has really worked as far as engagement during COVID? And I wonder if you have any ideas of how you've been successful in this past year with the challenges we've had.
Yeah, I think that success comes from, we are a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, but we are still a grassroots organization. We are still on the ground with the people, having conversations with them, I never want to instill, as a founder, I never want to instill in my organization this ivory tower of where we are bigger and better than those that we are serving. I want to make sure, because those that I hire into my organization, or as staff into the organization, they come from community. We are connected from community, and I think that's so important. When we think about serving our community, is that you have representation of the community, even if you have to go that extra mile of training them with things that, again, we might take for granted, basic computer skills that our folks might need. It's those little things that is important to continue to connect with our community members, and it's even more important to see folks that look like us, that walk like us, that talk like us, that experience the same struggles in life, and for them to see other folks thriving beyond, what we were given. So,
Thank you, Siora, so much for sharing. Just a quick story. The first time I met you was maybe, it feels like close to 10 years ago. It may have been a little bit more recent, but I think at the time you were kind of formulating the idea, and we're definitely active in the community. It has been really amazing to see how much you've grown the organization, all the things that you're doing now. It's really a testament to your leadership and the need for the services that you're providing, the community that you're providing. So thank you for joining us today. I think my question for you is another one. We have lots of folks on this call who represent different sectors, different groups. We have folks from homeless service provider agencies, K-12, higher ed, early childhood, lots of different providers I'm probably not thinking of. Are there particular sectors or organizations that you're really hoping to bridge more partnerships with, that you'd like to hear from, who might be on the call today?
Again, we have several programs, within our organization that we would definitely want to continue, either being a referral source for, or vice versa. Because sometimes, at Project T, we're filled to capacity, and folks are calling us, and we have to either pay for them an extended stay somewhere, which we would prefer not to do, because we like to keep folks engaged in programming to push them up to, be able to thrive outside of just sitting in some hotel somewhere. So any housing, initiatives that are happening that, are inclusive to our LGBTQIA community would be super helpful to us, because that allows us also to be able to help folks be more inclusive in their spaces. We provide trainings, at our organization for different spaces who are looking to become, a more inclusive space, but are just struggling how to do that, right? And as we start to revamp those trainings back up, because of COVID, things happened. But as we start to, ramp those things back up, we want to be able to make sure that we're connecting with, housing initiatives, drug and rehab facilities that are, servicing our community. That can be another referral source for our Grow to Succeed program. Spaces that are wanting to become more inclusive to transgender and non-binary bodies, as far as mental health, as far as physical health, as far as medical health is concerned. We don't have many safe places to go in Pittsburgh that is inclusive to us. And I want to be very clear about that, because there are some that puts up a front that they are safe, but those that we serve know different. And I want to make sure, in this work, that we are intentional about, service provision. And if there's room to learn as a service provider, always be, no matter what you're doing, how you're providing that service, that always be open to learn things that you may not have been familiar with in communities that you do not come from. Just always being, open to learn. There's things, even as, I move in these leadership roles, and as an ED, that I learn all the time. I wasn't given a script on how to run a nonprofit organization when I started it. And to what you mentioned, Laura, I was 19 when I was around 18, 19 when I first started Sisters PGH. I'm 32 now. And it's been a little over a decade that I've had to learn so much, through this work, and continuing to learn through folks like you, and creating partnerships that make sense, right? Not just partners that are sitting there, oh yeah, we're partners. Like, it looks great on paper or on the website. No, like actual partners that are supporting each other to grow. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. And anyone that, please write down contact information and reach out to help to continue to build some of those partnerships. For the sake of time, we're going to move on. And so now we're going to have our education partner spotlight. And so CCAC resource navigators have been on our last couple of meetings, and today we're going to have them share out some of the things that's happening at CCAC. So I'll turn that over to you. I believe it's Kimberly Davis.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of your meeting today. I have a lot of big shoes to fill after the presentation we just heard. Thank you so much for sharing that information. It was all new insight for me in